You've probably heard that governments can just print money, trillions of dollars, created from nothing at the push of a button. And if you've ever stressed about rent, checked your bank account and felt sick, or worked harder than ever and still felt broke, that probably made you furious. Because if they can print unlimited money, why are millions of people still struggling? That's the question we're answering today. And the answer is way more interesting than anything they taught in school. Here's what we're covering. What money actually is, why scarcity is a choice, not a law of nature, why crises keep hitting the same people, a concept called the Cantillon Effect that explains all of it, and what you can actually do once you understand the rules. Let's go. Part 1. What even is money? Think about the original traders. Merchants shipping spices from Asia, cotton from England. You can't lug a chest of gold coins across an ocean. Too heavy, too risky. So they invented a shortcut, receipts. You leave your gold at a bank. They hand you a piece of paper that says, "We've got your gold." You carry the paper, way easier. Now here's where it gets interesting. The banker, let's call him Nick, is sitting on a vault full of everyone's gold. And he notices something. Nobody ever comes back for all their gold at the same time. Most people just pass the paper receipts around like cash. So Nick has an idea. What if I issue more receipts than I actually have gold? He has £5 million in gold. He issues £10 million in receipts. He just doubled the money supply, out of thin air, and he pockets the interest on all those extra loans. That's not ancient history. That's fractional reserve banking. What banks do right now, today. Money isn't a fixed, scarce thing sitting in a vault somewhere. It's a number on a ledger. And whoever controls the ledger controls how much of it exists. But if banks can just create money, why doesn't it flow to everyone equally? Part 2. The scarcity is artificial. New money doesn't appear in everyone's account at once. Think of it like water pressure in a high-rise building. Highest at the source, weaker by the time it reaches the lower floors. The people at the bottom still get water, eventually. But the penthouse got it first, freshest, and most of it. That's exactly how new money works. Here's a real example. COVID hits, the economy tanks, the Federal Reserve injects trillions into the financial system, buying bonds, propping up banks, keeping markets liquid. Stock markets, which had fallen 30%, recovered within months. Regular people got a $1,200 stimulus check. Once. Meanwhile, real estate prices spiked. Rent went up. Inflation hit harder at the grocery store than on Wall Street. This isn't a conspiracy theory, it's documented policy. If you owned stocks, your portfolio recovered fast. If you owned a house, its value went up. If you owned only wages, your paycheck stayed flat while everything around you got more expensive. The problem isn't that money can't be created, it's that the money being created doesn't reach the people who need it, at least not before it's already inflated the cost of their lives. So why does this keep happening? Are crises just bad luck? Part 3. Crises aren't random. Here's how the cycle works. When borrowing is cheap and easy, everyone overinvests. Housing prices balloon. Stock valuations get ridiculous. Everyone assumes the good times never end. Then interest rates rise, or one domino falls, and suddenly everyone tries to exit at the same time. Credit freezes. Jobs vanish. Savings evaporate. Sound familiar? It happened in 2000, in 2008, in 2020, roughly every decade. And here's the pattern that should bother you. Every single time, people who owned assets before the crash held on, got bailed out, or bought more at the bottom. People who owned only wages, who lived paycheck to paycheck, got wiped out. Imagine two people on a sinking ship. One has a life jacket, stocks, property, savings. One is treading water, wages, no safety net. When the storm hits, the person with the life jacket stays afloat. The person treading water goes under. The ship doesn't sink to hurt the second person on purpose. But the ship was only built with life jackets for some passengers. Crashes don't fall randomly. They fall on the same group of people every time because the system is built to protect capital, not wages. So what's the actual mechanism? It has a name. Part 4. The Cantillon Effect. Richard Cantillon was an economist in the 1700s who figured out something we still feel today. When new money gets created, it doesn't spread evenly like rain. It flows like a river, and whoever's upstream drinks first. Here's how it flows today. The central bank creates money. That money goes to banks. Banks use it to buy bonds and assets. Asset prices rise, stocks, real estate, businesses. Eventually some of it trickles into wages and consumer prices, but by then, inflation has already eaten into your purchasing power. The result? Someone who owned a house watches it gain 30% in value. Someone who rents watches their rent go up 30%. Same money creation event, completely opposite outcomes, based entirely on whether you owned assets or wages. This is why just print more money doesn't fix poverty. It can actually make relative poverty worse, unless that new money is specifically directed at people who need it. And historically, it isn't. This is the Cantillon Effect. This is the mechanism behind why wealth gaps widen every time there's a bailout or stimulus. Now you have a name for it. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Part 5. What to do with this? I want to be upfront. Learning all this can feel depressing at first. Like, great, the game is rigged. Now what? But here's the real takeaway. Most people are playing without ever reading the rulebook. You just read it. The fundamental shift is this. Stop thinking of money as a reward for hard work and start thinking of it as a tool that flows toward assets. That doesn't mean get rich quick. It means asking different questions. Not just how do I earn more, but how do I start owning more? Not why is everything getting expensive, but who does this inflation actually benefit? Not why am I falling behind despite working hard, but am I positioned in wages or in assets? Even small steps toward ownership, an index fund, a piece of property, a stake in a business, move you closer to the upstream end of that money river. Poverty isn't a personal failure. It's a structural outcome for people who were never shown how the system actually works. Understanding this is the first step to changing your position in it. Let's bring it all home. Money is a manufactured promise, not a scarce physical thing. Banks create it constantly. But new money flows to assets first. That's the Cantillon Effect, which is why wealth gaps widen every time there's a crisis or stimulus. And economic crashes follow structural patterns that consistently protect capital and punish wages. We started with one question. If money can be printed, why do so many people stay broke? The answer isn't scarcity. It's that the money being created doesn't flow to the people who need it. That's not a glitch. That's the design. But now you know the design. And knowing it is the first unfair advantage. Drop a comment. Had you heard of the Cantillon Effect before this? Most people haven't. Hit like if this hit different. And subscribe, because next time we're going even deeper into how central banks actually influence governments and why that matters more than most people realize. See you there.